Welcome back to the End Time Remnant YouTube channel. This is Dorothy, and prayerfully you are all doing well. Welcome to the month of May. This year is absolutely on the move, and I am so excited about what the Lord is doing in the body of Christ right now. While this channel is certainly for all, throughout this month of May, I wanted to do a series just really trying to bless and encourage women of God and sharing some knowledge with the women of God that the Lord has given me over the years through His revelation, His word, and life experiences. Those of you who desire to be wives and mothers, those of you who are already wives and mothers, those of you who are just open to whatever the Lord has for you, and that may include marriage and motherhood, I wanted to create a series, kind of like a sister circle, just to encourage and empower you and to just invite you to come into the comments and just share, what the Lord has been doing with you if you feel led to, share some of the knowledge that the Lord has given to you so that we can become wise women, women of great wisdom, women who apply the knowledge that the Lord has given to us. So there are a lot of things that we need to address, right? For the men of God who are subscribed to this channel, I truly believe the information may bless you as well. Because he who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. You need to know how to identify your good thing. And in a world so heavily focused on outer shells, you need to know how to identify an actual diamond buried in a pool of cubic zirconias. So perhaps listening in throughout this month of May may actually be beneficial to you. And may I just say, so often women read and study and meditate on Proverbs 31, but Proverbs 31 is actually the blueprint for men when you are looking for a woman to marry. Okay, this is wisdom that a king's mother passed down to him about what kind of woman to look for. So Proverbs 31 is what women should model themselves after, and Proverbs 31 is what men should be looking for. Men of God. Proverbs 31 is what you should be looking for. Anyway, this first video has a lot of knowledge that I want to share with those of you who desire to be married and are waiting on the Lord in this particular area. There are so many marriage words, quote unquote, online that deal with God supposedly, keeping women posted on what their future husbands are doing and how they're feeling. But if I may be candid with you, the Lord has been preparing me for marriage, but He has not worked on me that way. Right? He has not led me to be more concerned about what my future spouse is doing or feeling more than He wants me to be focused on becoming the good thing that He promises in His word. And so with all that said, sisters, I want to focus on you. How can you be preparing for the union you are trusting the Lord for? If you are single, it's important to properly steward the season of singleness. Okay, marriage is not a game, and the enemy absolutely hates covenant. And to be candid with you, I really can't stand the way so many people, especially those who claim to be prophetic voices, always seem to want to give prophetic words about how your husband or your wife is just going to love you to bits, and that the two of you are going to live happily ever after. Nobody ever seems to want to even slightly touch the inevitable warfare that will rear its ugly head within these unions. Okay? Your single season is training season. Okay, this is where you are trained by the Holy Spirit on how best to navigate the landmines waiting for you and your spouse, because they are there and they are waiting. Okay, this is where the spirit of anger is replaced with a gentle and quiet spirit that will draw your husband closer to you. This is where the spirit of lust is replaced with self-control. Right? You'll know how to handle yourself should you ever be tempted to step outside of your covenant. No one ever wants to talk about it, but a lot of these women are out here cheating on their spouses just as the men are cheating. Okay? It's not just a man thing, right? That spirit of lust is an equal opportunity thing. Okay? The spirit of rejection, right? Your season of singleness is where the spirit of rejection that feeds all of your insecurities are replaced with godly confidence, right? Because your identity is rooted in him, not people, places, or things. Right? Your season of singleness is where the spirit of fear is replaced with boldness and fearlessness and courage. So when things happen within the union, you know who your help is. You know how to get a prayer through. You know how to fast and pray and watch heaven move on your behalf. You're not paralyzed by fear, and anxiety. Marriage is not a game. Okay? Marriage is not something to enter into lightly. Marriage is not for show. Right? And a lot of these people put more thought, creativity, and effort into the wedding day than they do their actual marriage. And it's quite sad, but it could really explain why so many of these marriages are biting the dust. Right? Marriage is not just about having someone to kick it with, someone to go on vacations with, someone to have kids with, someone to do life with, especially for the marriages that God has ordained. Okay, these marriages are so much deeper than that. These marriages will carry his glory in a very peculiar and different way. And just because God ordained them, they will be heavily attacked by the enemy. Anything God anoints always attracts the attack of the kingdom of darkness. So all of these quote unquote prophetic words about how y'all are about to skip off into the sunset without a care is really just not accurate. Okay, it's not accurate, and I want to do my best to prepare you by sharing what the Lord has given to me. Satan hates covenant, okay? The ones God put together and the ones he didn't. Okay, church folks are out here getting divorced just as much as people who are in the world, and there is a reason for that. Satan hates covenant. It's important to know that not every marriage is of God. Right? The vast majority are within his permissive will, meaning he didn't have anything to do with the choice that these two people made, but he gives free will, right? It's in his permissive will. He permits it. Some of these quote unquote marriages are not within his will at all. He does not view these particular people as married. And a chosen few are within his perfect will. These are the God ordained marriages, literally matches made in heaven according to his perfect will for the lives of those two people. Okay. How can you prepare for covenant while you are waiting on the Lord to usher you into marriage? In no particular order of importance, here are a few things that I want to share with you. If you struggle with sexual immorality in any way, I just want you to know that it must stop. Okay? It needs to stop. The masturbation must stop. And why? Is God mean? Is he some, taskmaster who doesn't understand that you have physical desires and needs? No. The reason why the masturbation must stop is because what you are doing is training your body to enjoy sex without your husband, right? The items that you are using to pleasure yourself are what your body is getting used to. And this is no good. Because when your husband comes, he will then have to compete with electronic devices that have desensitized you. Right? The touch of a human being is no longer really all that exciting to you because you're so used to your toys. The kiss from a human being is not necessarily all that exciting to you because you're so used to your toys satisfying you. Even the warmth, the cuddle of a human being next to you is not necessary because you are used to your toys. Right? And then this often leads to sexless marriages in which one or both parties are not satisfied. And that opens the door to the enemy. And then all of a sudden, folks are tempted to step out of their covenant in order to have their needs met. If you are someone who is waiting on the Lord to send you a spouse, but you are struggling in this particular area, I encourage you to pray about it and ask that the Lord would deliver you from this behavior because it is not good. It is not good. And again, what it really boils down to is not this taskmaster's list of things that you cannot do, but what it really boils down to is you are training your body to enjoy sex without your husband, right? And your human husband is not an electronic device, okay? If you are someone who is waiting for a spouse, but you are currently in fornication, it must stop. Okay, you are creating ungodly soul ties, right? Many years ago, before I got saved for real, I was reading my word, I was going to a local church, and I was just living my life, right? And part of that was sleeping with a man I was not married to. And out of nowhere, I began to have panic attacks. And I called a friend of mine that I knew was in the church, and I began to tell her what I was experiencing. These panic attacks would come out of nowhere, and they were so frightening to me. It's been years since I had that conversation with her, but I never forgot what she said to me. She listened very carefully to what I told her, and with no judgment, she said to me, "So often, women engage in fornication concerning themselves only with unwanted pregnancy or sexually transmitted diseases. But you need to know that there is another type of STD. It's a spiritually transmitted disease." And she said, "Sis, you have no idea what these men are carrying spiritually. You have no idea what demons are connected to them and which demons you are opening yourself up to when engaging with them sexually." Let me tell you something. By the time I got off the phone with her, I understood exactly what she was saying. And that's not to say I never fell into fornication again, but it is to tell you that I was no longer willing for this to be some ongoing casual thing that I just did. Right? The enemy caught me slipping a couple of times while I was in my flesh, but I absolutely was not out here just having sex all willy-nilly the way I used to, because soul ties are real and sexually transmitted diseases are real, and those panic attacks most definitely came from fornicating. And how do I know? Because as soon as I repented and I stopped engaging in that behavior, they went away, and I haven't had one since. It was not a figment of my imagination. She was spot on with what she was saying to me. There is no telling what people carry spiritually. But at this late hour in the age, you really don't want to mess around and find out. Some of these men carry spirits of anger, rage, and murder. Okay? Some of these men carry spirits of lust and perversion. All of a sudden, you're into doing certain things in the bedroom that you would have never considered doing before. And why? Because you've opened yourself up to a level of lust and perversion unlike anything you've ever experienced, okay? Because of who you're sleeping with. Some of these men carry lying spirits that produce a lack of integrity. So all of a sudden you find yourself being sneaky and dishonest in your everyday dealings, right? Not that you were perfect before, but now you're just on another level, right? You lack integrity. You're doing things that you wouldn't normally do, and you're not finding any issue with doing it, right? Some of these men carry a lazy spirit. So all of a sudden, you're just not showing up in the spirit of excellence like you once were. All of a sudden, you're not as motivated or on fire to do much of anything. Some of these men carry the spirit of heaviness, depression, and suicide. Okay? They look real good and sexy on the outside, but internally they are depressed, they are anxious, and they have suicide ideations. All of a sudden, these things are showing up in your life. Nah, yo. If people only knew what they are opening themselves up to when they decide to engage in sexual relationships outside of marriage, I truly believe that they would close up shop and just wait on the Lord, men and women. Right? If you struggle with this, I will be interceding in prayer for you, and I encourage you to get before the Lord. Ask him to take the desire to engage in this behavior away from you and cleanse you of all of the spiritually transmitted diseases you may have incurred as a result of this fornication. Tell the Lord you desire a husband, you desire one partner, you desire to do it his way, and you desire to be delivered from all of the spiritual residue that you may be carrying around. Right? Next, if pornography is an issue, right? If it's something that you find yourself constantly watching as you wait on the Lord to send you a spouse, I encourage you to stop. Pornography literally feeds the spirits of lust and perversion. And if there is one thing I know, it's that Satan isn't using pornography only to destroy men. Okay, men aren't the only ones sitting in front of that trash becoming addicted to it. Women are as well. And as you watch this, you are normalizing the perversion you see. You are training your mind and body to respond only to that type of perversion. So when you finally do get into your marriage and this man of God isn't doing half of what dude was doing on the porno you watched, all of a sudden your husband is boring, right? All of a sudden the sex you're having with your husband is boring. No, he's not boring. Your mind is perverted, okay, due to all of the pornography you've sat and watched year after year. The definition of perversion is the alteration of something from its original course, meaning, or state to a distortion or corruption of what was first intended. Right? I'll read that again. The definition of perversion is the alteration of something from its original course, meaning, or state to a distortion or corruption of what was first intended. Okay? So it's fantasy, it's perversion, and it's demonic. And when those are the visuals you have in your head and what you've accepted as normal, I guarantee you a godly spouse is going to seem quite boring, because almost none of what you see in porn will be happening in your bedroom within a godly marriage. Your man of God is not going to get down like that. Your woman of God is not going to get down like that. And so you need not train your mind to expect any of that foolery in the bedroom. I really don't know how else to say it. Pornography addiction is absolutely ruining marriages left and right, even within the church. Okay? So if this is a personal struggle for you right now, I encourage you to pray for deliverance from this stronghold before entering into the covenant of marriage. You don't want the enemy to have any room to come into your bedroom and just utterly dismantle what the Lord has put together. So Proverbs 14:1 says, "A wise woman builds her house. A foolish one tears it down with her own hands." And so the Lord has taught me the importance of wisdom, which is the application of knowledge. It's not enough to just know to do something. It's important to actually put that knowledge to action. More specifically, in how I handle everyday situations. The Lord has called me on the carpet for how I handle things, how I deliver a message, and how I would show up within the covenant of marriage. My speech, my behaviors, it all matters. The Lord is helping me to understand that women have the ability to be a beautiful and godly influence to their spouses. They have the ability to build their house or tear it down with their own hands. As much as people seem to loathe their seasons of singleness, for me, it's been a time of great training, a lot of learning, a lot of understanding, a lot of transformation, and a lot of revelation. So Proverbs 19:14 says, "Houses and riches are an inheritance from fathers, but a prudent wife is from the Lord." Okay? A prudent wife is a gift from the Lord because she thinks, she considers the future. She has self-control and she weighs a matter before responding. She understands that her words and actions aren't just for the moment, but that they will have a lasting effect one way or another. So if her words and actions are positive, right, they'll have a positive effect. If her words and actions are negative, they'll have a negative lasting effect, right? She understands this. She's not impulsive. She's not reckless with her speech or her behavior. And so the truth of the matter is that some of us were raised in households with women who operated in witchcraft, manipulation, intimidation, domination, a bunch of yelling, a bunch of threatening, no self-control at all. Women throwing their weight around, right, to make everyone fearful and control everyone in the household, including their husbands. If you've never seen it, God bless you. I know I have. In fact, it's all I've ever seen. Right? And this is ungodly behavior. And some of us were so steeped in it that it became normalized in our minds. The way we actually communicate with the people we're in relationships with was just so wrong and so off base. And so there had to be a season of unlearning and coming into the knowledge of God's truth, right? Prudence, self-control, and a gentle and quiet spirit is what we are supposed to have as wives. We've been given the gift of influence, but there is a way to do it, and it's not by raising hell within our households. And so the season of singleness is a time for the Lord to teach you that, a time for you to learn that, for those of you who need to learn that. We live in a society that hates it, but the truth of the matter is that there is a divine order, okay? The woman was not created to lead the man within the covenant of marriage. The man was supposed to lead the woman and his household as the Lord Jesus Christ leads him, right? So if we go to the Bible and we're looking at 1 Corinthians 11:3, it reads, "But I want you to know that the head of every man is Christ, the head of woman is man, and the head of Christ is God." We live in a time where so many people are operating outside of the divine order and wondering just how Satan has been able to dismantle so many marriages and families. Well, that's how. You're not in the divine order, right? We have men staying at home changing diapers while women hustle and work multiple jobs. They're not around to nurture and raise their children, right? We have women who completely emasculate their husbands. We have husbands refusing to take the lead and then getting upset when women rise up and become more dominant in the household. There's just a lot going on, and much of it is out of alignment with the word and will of God. A lot of people love to assert, or should I say, a lot of women like to assert that they are a quote unquote Deborah, right? We can find and read all about Deborah in the book of Judges, right? She was a leader, she was a judge, she was a prophetess. Someone commissioned by God to go out there and do big things. But I ask that you pay very close attention to the fact that there aren't too many Deborahs in the Bible, right? Everyone's not a Deborah. Okay, so some of us really need to come up off of that tip. Everyone is not a Deborah. Okay, yes, God raised up a woman judge during a time of great challenges for the children of Israel. But Deborah had a husband named Lapidoth. And I guarantee you, no matter how great of a judge or prophetess she was outside of the home, when she went home, there was an understanding of who the leader was there. And the reason why I feel confident in saying that is because God is a God of order, and he would never promote a woman saddled with a prideful, rebellious spirit of feminism to rule over his people. Deborah most definitely understood the divine order, which is God, Jesus, man, woman, and children. Okay. Years ago, when I worked in corporate America, I had a boss and a mentor who taught me a lot about life, but not just how to be a great leader in business. She also taught me what it looked like to be a wife. Okay. She was the vice president of our organization when I first met her. And a couple of years later, she left that organization to become CEO of another company. Okay. However, we kept in touch on a consistent basis. And one day she reached out and asked if I wanted to join her and her husband for dinner at a restaurant in Jersey City. I agreed to meet up with them. Now, I'd had many dinners with her and her husband over the years, and it was always a good time. But there was something very different about this dinner and that night. And after all these years, I firmly believe I was meant to bear witness to what I saw that night. Okay. We arrived at the restaurant. We took our seats. The first thing I noticed was that neither of them talked about work at all, right? He was a vice president at a successful makeup company, and she was now CEO of another organization. So technically, her position was higher than his, and more than likely, she probably made more money, okay? I feel like it's important to include these details, so I am. What I observed about my former boss that night was that she had the ability to completely turn off the, how can I put it, the kind of Miranda Priestley, Devil's Wear Prada, boss lady persona when she was in the presence of her husband. So keep in mind that I'd worked with this woman for quite some time. And so I got to see the boss lady persona, right? I got to see the leader in the office space. But now I was looking at just a woman who was out to dinner with her husband and a former colleague. And it was very different. She was extremely submissive. She was very catering. Love, what are you thinking about ordering? She was very warm toward her husband, right? Regardless of the fact that she's a CEO or the fact that she brings in the big bucks. When he was talking, she would allow him to finish his thoughts and ideas. She would affirm his thoughts and ideas, right? She would add to the conversation, but never intentionally being different or playing devil's advocate to try to seem like she had more knowledge than him, right? There was never any air of competition of who's smarter, who's better. Or that ever-present battle of the sexes mindset that seems to contaminate and defile almost every conversation these days, right? There's always like this somebody needs to like one up somebody, You know what I mean? She and her husband used the evening to pour into me. They gave me advice professionally. They gave me advice personally, regarding my relationships, what to look for in a man, what the standards should be for me, and just overall to expect the very best for myself. When the check came, I noticed that my former boss did not flinch. Okay, she did not bother to grab it. She did not bother to look at it. Nothing. It was almost as though there was an automatic understanding that I am here with a man. I am here with my man. I am here with my husband, and he will pay the bill. I went to grab my purse to contribute to pay for my dinner, right? Because I don't be going places with the expectation that other people are going to pay my way. Right? I was a working woman at that time, and I had money to pay my own way. But that's another story for another time. And I saw my former boss shake her head to me gently and say very matter-of-factly while smiling, "Paul's got it, Dorothy." Again, at that time, she likely made more money than her husband, but there are certain things a real man does. Okay? He leads, he protects, and he provides. Right? God knows precisely what he was doing when he created man in his likeness and an image. He knows what he was doing when he created woman in his likeness and an image. Men are here to protect and provide. The problem is that for women who make more money than their husbands, far too often the enemy has used the spirit of pride to come up the middle and cause unnecessary competition and division. Okay? After her husband paid the bill, we all left the restaurant and they walked me to my car. We said our goodbyes and I got into my car, but I didn't drive off right away. I sat there for a moment and I watched my former boss walk down the street hand in hand with her husband. She was very light on her feet. She looked incredibly in love. I saw them share a kiss and she looked almost like a schoolgirl with a crush, right? Meanwhile, she's a CEO. Listen to me. God is a God of order. And there is a reason for the divine order, church. And I share this story with you because for those chosen few who are Deborahs and who have been called to lead outside of your home, I just want you to know that that does not apply on the inside of the home. The crown of leadership that you wear at work comes off when you step up to your front door. Right? You do not wear that inside your home. And unfortunately, not too many women actually understand that these days. Okay? So it was a blessing to bear witness to my former boss and her husband and the way they engaged with each other. No one's competing over here. Two flesh have become one. We both out here winning and we're both out here loving on each other the way we're supposed to. Okay? And over the years, the Lord has indeed impressed this upon my spirit. And, I don't know what the Lord has for me, but should he elevate me again to a place where I am once again making significant income, I feel like it was very important for me to understand that leadership outside of the home does not translate into leadership within the home. Not according to the will of God and not according to the divine order that is within the word of God. And so the final nugget I want to share on this particular video, because I don't want it to be too long, is that physical beauty is great, but inner beauty is what attracts God, right? Far too many of us are doing all that we can to keep up with women in the world regarding physical appearance. In fact, when you put some of these women of God side by side with women who are in the world, it's getting harder and harder to be able to tell the difference, right? With your natural eye. Physically, they're starting to look the same, right? Same 10 pounds of makeup, same wigs and weaves, same fake eyelashes, same fake nails, same bodycon dresses, right? For a very long time, I struggled with being overly concerned with my physical appearance. We often hear about how visual men are and how we need to keep ourselves up in order to keep their interest. But the truth needs no proof, okay? There are countless women who clock more hours in the gym than you can imagine, right? They stay with the latest hairstyles and fashion. They look amazing on the outside. And as I speak to you right now, their husbands are cheating with someone who isn't nearly as physically attractive. The truth is that inner beauty does matter, and it matters more than physicality, especially to a man of God. Okay. And that's really the only type of man a woman of God should be looking for. They can find physical beauty any and everywhere. Those types of women are a dime a dozen. Okay. Even the most unattractive woman has learned how to slather on makeup, put wigs and weaves on. Like even the most unattractive woman has the ability to make herself look attractive physically these days. Okay? What's much harder to come by is a woman with inner beauty. A woman comfortable in her own skin who does not operate from a place of insecurity. A woman who is loving, kind, gentle, and joyous, right? A woman who loves God and therefore has the capacity to love their spouse unconditionally. I mean, truly, if you have not learned to love a perfect God, then how on earth will you love an imperfect man, right? A woman who will take her vows seriously because she understands that those wedding vows weren't just to him, but they were made unto God as well. Physical beauty is nice. Okay, no one is trying to be out here looking all crazy. I get it. But physical beauty never has and never will keep a man who is committed to violating his marital covenant. Outer beauty is too common to keep a man. Okay, it's the inner beauty, the rare beauty that makes a man consider what he could potentially lose and never find again in this life. Okay, so just remember this biblical truth. Okay, and it's located in Proverbs 31:30. It says, charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. So that's all I have for you on this particular video. And God willing, I'll see you next time.